Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Kevin McCluskey, who is just double checking everything's okay on the sound levels. Anybody who's tuning in live, can you just confirm to me, whilst I'm here, that everything is good with the sound? Give me a thumbs up, give me a comment, let me know that you can hear me out there in the world of Celtic before we get stuck into that starting 11. Ewan Boy Martin, thank you for joining us. Strange Love the Doctor, Jungle Lion, Kevin Cantley. One of you just tell me that you can hear me out there in the worldwide web of Celtic, because at this moment in time, Kevin can't hear me, which is loud and clear. Yes. Now, you might be stuck with me because Kevin couldn't hear me, so he's away to sort out his laptop. Let's have a look at the starting lineups then. We'll start with Feyenoord. Let's get that one out of the way, and then we'll have a wee talk about Celtic. Bilio, Geertruida, Beelan, Hanko, Hartman, Zaruki, Timber, Stengs, Pixel, Jimenez, and Ivanusic. That is the Feyenoord start 11. And it's only right to go through that, to respect the opponents this evening. Celtic obviously having a tribute tonight to the one and only Wim Jansen. Wim Jansen, who won the European Cup with Feyenoord against Celtic in 1970. And then, of course, came to Celtic for that one memorable season, and he brought the great Henrik Larsson, and we stopped the 10, or won the 1, depending on how you like to remember that particular year. Wim Jansen's tribute will be at Celtic Park this evening. We've been talking about it all week, and it's one of these situations where I've got to say, listen, going into some of these broadcasts, if you want to talk about things that are going wrong and recruitment and things you're unhappy with, you've got to discuss it. It's not like we're looking for a negative. I've had a lot on the socials today simply because some people don't like to talk about it. They don't want to hear it. They think that you're only here to give the club a kicking, which is absolutely not the case. It's the exact opposite in actual fact. We want the club to absolutely maximise what we have at our disposal. And at this moment in time, it doesn't look like we're doing it, does it? So here we go. We'll talk about the Celtic lineup, and it starts with Joe Hart in goals. Let's be honest, there is no other option between the sticks. The back four is an interesting one. So Alistair Johnston is at right back with Greg Taylor at left back, and the centre-half partnership is Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales. Now, all season, I think many of us will agree that the strongest partnership at the back is Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Carter-Vickers doesn't make it tonight, doesn't make the bench. I know that it was claimed that him being left out of the team at the weekend was precautionary because he felt a tightness in his hamstring having been taken off at halftime against Hibs. But he is missing this game as well. And I think that had been confirmed already by Brendan Rodgers, along with the update on Dyson Maeda. We'll go through the team and then we'll break it up and break it down and bring your comments in and see how you're feeling this evening. Tell me, what do you think of the starting 11? Tell me, what do you think of tonight? Is it a good opportunity for us to kickstart the season, as I suggested in the 12:30 bulletin earlier on this afternoon? In the midfield, we have Tomoki Iwata, Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly, and up top you have the right winger Mikey Johnson, on the left Louis Palma, and through the centre Kyogo is restored to the starting 11, something that I hoped would happen. It's not something that's against O in any way, shape or form. I felt that O deserved the jersey in the 2 starts that he got, but tonight it's all about getting Kyogo firing again, back on all cylinders, because without him, we're a lesser team. It's as simple as that. For the last 2 seasons, he has been, this word talismanic has been used quite a lot to describe Kyogo, and he exactly is that. And we need to get him back. We need to play to his strengths. And I think going by Brendan Rodgers' press conference just the other day there, he needs to play to his own strengths as well. On the bench, we've got Scott Bain, Morrison, Lagerbielk, Phillips, Turnbull, Holm, O, Bernardo, Forrest, Ralston, and Frame. Great to see Morrison and Frame on there. But at the same time, Phillips has had some Champions League experience with us. Lagerbielk is in there. Norowski is getting the nod domestically on the bench due to the fact, obviously, he's not in the Champions League squad. And then you've got the midfield trio who have all had starts, Turnbull, Holm and Bernardo. They've been kept out by Iwata. And then our offensive players, O and Forrest, will give us some options from the bench. And of course, Tony Ralston as well, who has been deployed not only at right back, but also at left back as well. Now, as I say, I hope that Kevin McCluskey will be joining us. If he doesn't, then he will definitely leave me to do all the talking. Ewan Boy Martin, an absolute pleasure to see you tonight, my friend. Thumbs up. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday as well, as Celtic's centre-half from Sweden, Johan Mjällby, comes to Graces to join Acsom for a live event. And it's nearing a sellout. There's about 20 or just under 20 tickets. If you want to come along and treat somebody to a wee early Christmas present, the ticket link is indeed underneath this video. That will follow our charity weekender. It's the 4th time that we have done the charity weekender. And this year, it is for wee Jamie Tierney, who, as you may know, if you've been tuning into Acsom, has unfortunately been fighting Duchenne muscular dystrophy, for which there is no cure, but there are certain treatments that he can get to improve his quality of life. But they are very expensive, and we've been raising cash from this year, and we'll continue at the weekend to raise cash. Some big podcasts coming to join us on the Acsom channel over the weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. But let's concentrate on the game this evening. Ewan, you've already been up. Let's hear from you again. Good chance there might be under 50,000 in here tonight. Well, that's a shame, because at the beginning of the season, one of the benefits, of course, of winning the league is the fact that you have the Champions League opportunity the following season. It's exciting. We all get really caught up in the razzmatazz of the draw. And I think looking forward to this particular group, you know, there seemed to be a bit of optimism that we could do something this season, something better than last time round, whereby we had a very tough group and we only got 2 points from it. We're sitting going into this final game where a win would actually mean that we double our points tally from last season. Do you see it as progress? Do you think we've made European progress? I know the board will point to the fact that if we've doubled our points tally, then that is indeed progress. But how do you feel yourself as a Celtic supporter when you're looking at the performances? I think it's been a mixed bag. You could almost separate it between the home and away ties. I don't think we have played particularly poorly in the games against Atletico Madrid and Lazio at home. Obviously, away from home has been a different story. We got off to a really bad start, didn't we? When we played Feyenoord away, 2 sendings off. The 2 guys that got red cards are on the bench tonight, Lagerbielke and Holm, and they've not really played regularly since then. So again, let's recap on the starting 11, and let's have a look at each section of the field and see how you feel about that. Joe Hart's and goals. We said a couple of days ago that Celtic may well have been in the market for a goalkeeper in the summer. It might not be a great idea to bring them in mid-season, but I think Joe Hart would have benefited from us getting a challenge. And I'm not sure Scott Baines really ever challenged Joe Hart for the jersey. He's had a game here and there. And the same could be said for Benjamin Siegrist, who has played a grand total of 2 games for Celtic. So he's never had a challenge. We go into the Champions League games, and every time we do that, we talk about Joe Hart's vast experience in this particular competition whilst he was at Man City. Kevin McCluskey, I think you'll be glad to see him. He's waiting in the waiting room. He's in full attire, and let's just hope that he can actually hear me talking when I bring him into the stream. Can you join us, Kevin McCluskey? Can you join us? Let's have a wee look, and we'll soon see if you can, my friend. Kev, can you hear me?
I can, at last, yes.
I knew there was that look. There was that look in his face that, yes, he could. He's on his phone. He's ditched a laptop. And that was a bad start to the night, Kevin. Is it going to get any better?
I mean, normally you say, can it get any worse? But I'm not going to say that tonight, because I think it might. Apologies for that technical issue. I'm not sure if it's the laptop that's gone. No, not because it's not very old, or if it's an old pair of headphones. But here we are on the phone.
From Hungary, from Budapest.
On the phone from Hungary. I know. Absolutely. Modern technology, Paul.
It is. It's impressive. We're just going to talk about the start 11 and then look at the chances of a result tonight and where that leaves us. As a supporter, does it feel like progress? Because we know that the board, they've got this way of moulding statements, etc., like the financials, for example, Kev. And they always list the players that you've bought, and it's a big tranche of players, and it cost us this amount of money. But it only tells half the story. It doesn't tell you the nuances of each signing, which signing has been successful, etc. It's a wee bit like this. I was saying it just before you came back in, that we win tonight, we double our points tally from last season. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you and I covered all 6 games last season, didn't we, in the Champions League?
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. And I think from last season to this, you and I have noticed that there's been a big drop-off in the quality, or there certainly hasn't been any improvement anyway. I think there's a couple of games at the start of the campaign where there were encouraging signs and there was a bit of hope. But as it's gone on, it's dropped off. I think I'm going to paraphrase John Hughes a little bit from earlier on today because I can't remember exactly what he said, but there's this thing about, as a Celtic fan, you obviously never want your team to lose a game, but maybe tonight I don't want us to win it, because if we end up getting that win and doubling our points tally, as you've said, from last season in the Champions League, then the board will view this as a success and they will view it as progress, and we've moved on. Now, I'd like to say there's 60,000 folk in that stadium tonight that would disagree, but I don't think there's going to be 40,000 in the stadium to disagree with that, and that's proof enough that we haven't moved forward. This season is a step backwards, and even if we do end up getting 4 points, really doesn't mean anything. There's no progress. It would be it's been a bit of disastrous campaign in Europe. To be blunt about it.
Well, there are moments. There are moments, and I think Callum McGregor spoke about this in the press conference that Acsom Rabbani represented Acsom in yesterday, whereby you can point to the Atletico Madrid game for a start. You got a result in that, you played a really top quality side there, Kevin, and we drew with them at home, and we were leading. We were leading 2-1. Then you've got the Lazio game, where I think everybody on the planet thought that Celtic had gone ahead. Palmer certainly did. He got a booking for celebrating it. And then it was a cruel twist at the end of that game. So those 2 performances, you look at those and you think, there are signs there. There are moments where, you've got to clutch onto them and think, right, we need more moments. We need a full performance from Celtic away from home. Of course, it's been different. The first game against tonight's opponents, Feyenoord, was a disaster because you cannot play at this level with 9 men. And the 2 sendings off, as I said just before you came in, the 2 guys are sitting on the bench, and one of them was Lagerbielke. Mark McDonald thought that he would be playing this evening. Obviously, Carter Vickers never made it. But Stephen Welsh has been thrown in, and Sean Thompson thinks that it might be a risk. I think it's always a risk, Kev. He's not played this season. He's coming back from a medium-term injury. It's always going to be a risk. I think that, the Nat Phillips situation, the fact that we needed a centre-half, it was very much an emergency centre-half, and we've shopped in the EPL. Again, there are certain elements to that sound fine on paper, but I think the performances, Kev, have not really backed that up, have they, from Nat Phillips?
No, they've not. There's a lot of things that sound fine on paper, and one of them could be, if we win this game tonight, that we end up with 4 points and it's double the points that we got the last season. It sounds fine on paper, but if you dig into it a wee bit deeper, it's not so fine. Nat Phillips, he's an English Premiership defender. He's played European football before. He had a season or half a season out in Germany. So there's a lot of things that you would say makes him a positive signing at the time, but he's been dreadful. I think that's the word they used to describe his performance on Sunday. So I don't normally like to have a go directly at one individual player, but when it comes to him, I'm prepared to sacrifice that and go for it, because on Sunday at Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, he was an absolute nightmare. Every time the ball came near him, he had zero confidence he was going to win it, even if he was unchallenged. He just had that a belief in him that he was going to mess it up somehow. 9 times out of 10 he did. He's a signing that just hasn't worked out. but he just hasn't worked out in a spectacular way because we've absolutely needed him to step up at a time when we signed him. I'll join the queue of people that would probably have in January. As for Welsh coming back in, yeah, it's a risk. Of course it is. But whatever game he comes back in is a risk after being out for the length of time that he has. And as daft as it sounds, this Champions League game might just be the perfect game to bring him back in. There's very little at stake in this match. Win, lose or draw, we're out. The benefit of winning is we can beat our points tally from last season and we can get a few extra quid in the bank through the bonus prize money for winning a game. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean that much. It could just be an opportunity for him to get, hopefully him to get 60 minutes in his legs, and then Lagerbielke to get 30 minutes in his legs. Because if that clause does exist in Phillips' contract that he has to be in a match day squad, doesn't necessarily say that he has to play when he's in the squad. So if Welsh can only last an hour, get Lagerbielke on there and start using him more. Because come January, we'll be relying on him more than Phillips, because hopefully Phillips won't be here.
Well, see the thing with that, we have obviously been pretty critical of the transfer window in the summer. And there's things that I need to say about this, Kev, because if you're critical about something and you explain your reasons behind it, and I've done that in detail both on the streams and also on the blog, then I don't think that's negative. Negative is just pulling out some kind of opinion without really any basis and just being negative for the sake of being negative. When we look at that transfer window and we look at tonight's start 11, for example, you run right through that defence. None of the new signings are in there. You then go into the midfield. Every single one of the players were already here. And then you go up top. And Palm was the only guy in the start 11 who came in as one of the 9 in the transfer window. We're bedded in now. It's December. It's the middle of December, Kev. And very few of them have made their mark. Now, obviously, Nat Phillips has been in the firing line, I think, because of his performance at the weekend. And I'm sitting here and I'm glad that we didn't dive in and sign him permanently. Now, it then begs the question, and this is twofold as well. There's this belief process that, Scottish football, my granny could play there and score 40 goals. It's tin pot. We hear it all the time. And I think most Scottish football fans know the limitations of the game. They know where we are in the food chain, Kev. We don't need somebody down south with a league that's just been pumped full of money to tell us that, right? But when you look at some of the players who have come up here recently and played for Celtic, and also some of them who have actually gone to Rangers, and they've failed really drastically to make any kind of impression. Joey Barton and Ramsey over there, Ibrox, and I think when you look at the players that we brought up from the Premier League, Ayeti was an absolute disaster of a signing. Shane Duffy, Nat Phillips, not good. On the other side, Carter Vickers has been an excellent, acquisition for Celtic. But the point remains, there's no guarantee if you're going to throw money either in wages, in the case of Duffy and Phillips, or in a transfer fee to bring a player up from the EPL, which is considered as one of the best leagues in the world. There's no guarantee they're going to make it up here. And, when you're looking at the transfer business that we've done in the summer there, and you're unhappy with it, the answer isn't always shop in more expensive markets. It's just about the calibre of the player. It's about scouting them to a point, Kev, where you are looking at certain criteria so that you think they're going to suit our style of play. We've brought in 3 wingers in the summer. We had to obviously strengthen in that position, but we brought in 3 wingers who have not played to the strengths of our star man, arguably, who's Kyogo. And I was blown away with the stat on Friday by Alan Morrison, who spoke about the combined amount of completed passes to Kyogo in the box, in the opposing box all season between Palma and Yang was 4. 4 completed forward passes into the box. That's horrific. So you're buying players who are not fitting what we've actually got set up already. You're then having to either develop them or change the style of your team. So, I take it on board that recruitment is no exact science. It's not about just going out and throwing 5 million quid at a team and it's going to work. Because we've had our fingers burnt, Kev, fairly recently, and we know that doesn't work. But I'm only echoing, and it's not the reason I'm saying it, but I'm only echoing what Brendan Rodgers has been saying now for the last few weeks in the press conferences, Kev. And, this is almost predictable in that I'm being called negative for calling it out. The recruitment is one of the biggest reasons why we are where we are just now in the Champions League. Would you agree with that?
100%. If you were saying anything otherwise, you'd be called naive or just plain daft.
Or a cheerleader. Yeah.
Or a cheerleader, exactly. I think there were probably times during the transfer window when players were coming in and you were giving them the benefit of the doubt, like guys like even Kwon and Yang, Holm, players that a lot of people hadn't heard of before. You give them the benefit of the doubt because you will like to hope that the club has done this due diligence on them and scouted them and that they fit a profile. So, you give them the benefit of the doubt. But now, 3-4 months into the season, you can absolutely look back and be critical of it. And you've got to be. It's analytical. It's just looking at it, with that benefit of hindsight and everything that's now happened since then. Transfer window was a disaster. It really has been. There's only one player that's made any sort of a positive impact in the team, and that's Palmer. And again, listening to today's show, I think it was yourself that was talking about it and being like, he's not even the complete article yet.
No.
Defensively, he doesn't offer anything. Mentally, you worry about him at times because he's got that tendency to get a silly booking. So I don't think it's been negative. I think it's just been honest. It's just an honest appraisal. You look back at it and you say, it didn't do what it was supposed to do, that transfer window. And as much as you can say, scouting recruitment, it's not an exact science. There's better ways of doing it, clearly, than how we've done it. Because, and again, I think it was Alan that did it on Friday when he's talking about the profile of certain players that we've signed. You just wonder, at what point did that pass anyone's test?
Yang, Kwon.
There was Yang, Kwon, I think Lagerbielke was the other one.
Yeah.
And you just look at them, and Lagerbielke's probably a really good example for it, because a lot of his defensive stats, I think, are pretty good. But then as Alan says about it, his passing stats. If you're a centre-back at Celtic, you pass the ball and you get the ball pretty much more than anyone else in the park.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't make the short passes, the simple passes, which is what we do, and he can't, then you're not going to fit the style. So you can be dominant in the air and you can be a good tackler, but if you're not good in the ball as a centre-back, you don't fit the profile. Be a Celtic centre-back. And he's also quite slow, which must also have come up in the stats.
Mm-hmm.
But someone's okayed that. If you look at Yang, I think he maybe is a player with a bit of promise, but he's not the quickest. He can't really take his man on going down the line. He likes to cut inside and is a bit of a one-trick pony that way. We needed a winger that was going to beat his man, hit the line and hit the near post with these crosses, because your main centre forward is Kyogo, who just strives on that pass.
Absolutely.
I was shocked when I heard the stat though of only 4 crosses.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think it would be very high, but 4 crosses in 8-10 games, whatever it was Kyogo was in for, it's unacceptable. He could be well into double figures just now if he was getting the service. And this is what I was saying on Sunday. We're as well not playing Kyogo at the moment if we can't give him the service. We're wasting him by just not using him in the right way.
What I'm going to say tonight, I'm going to bring in a few comments, obviously, before going to the action, but the one that I'm going to bring in here from Patrick James Simpson, meaningless game tonight, the focus should have been on Sunday, as tonight is a dead rubber. Right, I get that, we're out the competition, but I would counter that, Patrick, by saying that it's not a dead rubber in anything other than the fact that we can't do anything in Europe this year. I think the sooner we can get back into a playing style, into a rhythm, into injecting an ounce or two of confidence into some of the guys who look short on confidence, Kyogo being one of them, Kev, and also to say to the support that, you know what, we're back on track. And I was saying that today in the 12:30 bulletin, Kev. I'm looking at tonight's game as being the first of a clutch of 4 games between now and the 30th of December when we play Rangers at Celtic Park in what is a top of the table challenge. I mean, there's no getting away from that. We've had a good gap up the top of the league. We've thrown it away. Simple as that. If you go to Rugby Park and get beat, this is what happens. So I'm looking at tonight's game not in isolation. I'm not looking at tonight's game and saying there's nothing to play for, it's a dead rubber because we're out of the Champions League. I'm saying we need to make a decision on tonight's game, a decision in terms of the strongest start 11, the style of play. Are we going to change the approach from the wingers, Kev, to ensure that Kyogo is getting this kind of service that he's not been getting so far? Is Kyogo going to be playing off the shoulder of the last man, as Brendan Rodgers suggests he's been informed to do? And then we can start looking at, right, okay, what have we got to build on after tonight? Going into the game against Hearts, what have we got to build on? Because the worst thing you can do is going into the game against Hearts after another defeat. Because all the talk's going to be about, there's Celtic 2 defeats on the bounce. Broken crests, that's negative. You never get that from Acsom. So I think that tonight for me, I'm not looking at tonight's game in isolation. I am looking at it as a collection, the first of 4 games before the game against Rangers. And I think it's important to try and get some kind of confidence in the team, but also in the fan base, Kev, because to go into the game against Hearts with 2 defeats back-to-back is the worst possible preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, 100% on that one. Looking at today's game, I've been going through all the emotions about it, from not really caring about the game because it doesn't mean anything Champions League-wise. We're already out. Not sure if I want us to win because it gives the board an excuse to say that we've made progress when we really haven't. But my overriding thing that I'm getting, again, now as we come up to kick-off, is we absolutely have to win this game because we're Celtic. Friendlies aren't friendlies when you're Celtic, right? We don't have friendlies. We play them to win. This is a competitive game. You've got to play it to win it. It could be your first home victory in the Champions League in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it breaks that we run a bad form that we're on, or it just gets you over that defeat from the weekend, because that's something we need to get out of the system straight away. And you nailed it there. If we lose tonight, guaranteed there will be one of the red top papers will put out tomorrow morning, the broken crest, Celtics in crisis, 2 games without a win, all of this. And it's because it's building up to a big game at the end of the month. We just can't afford to have that happen. So today's a massive game. It's a must win. It nothing to do with the Champions League, but just must win in the context of the rest of the season and building up some more momentum again.
Yeah, without a doubt. And everything else for me comes secondary. The financial element of winning a game, the coefficient. I don't think Brendan was too interested in that when he was asked about it yesterday at the press conference. But I think it's all about momentum. It's about trying to get this team to turn a corner. I think it was Ian Conroy, so hopefully Ian will join us for the halftime. He said that it's almost as if we need to get that cough up, and then once we've done it, we can get started again. I am going to back Brendan Rodgers. I've seen a lot of comments even tonight. I'll bring one up actually. Here we go. So we've got David Beattie, Rodgers looking for the sack. Another humiliation on the cards with that starting 11. Now, David, this isn't personal, but we've been talking about taking flack for being critical and being called negative because we're being critical. I think that's quite a negative statement. I don't think at this stage of the season you do sack your manager. We're sitting at the top of the league. I think if you sack your manager at this moment, Kevin, it throws the entire campaign into disarray. I think you can write the season off. You'll be lucky to win the Scottish Cup.
Yeah. I think that would be a crazy move to make. And I don't think Brendan's looking for the sack. If we sack him, his reputation's gone. He's not getting another job after us, and he's not getting another big one, and he'll have to, go back to a Swansea type team and rebuild his reputation again.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want the sack. I think what we're seeing from Rodgers, though, is a manager that's frustrated and maybe shares some of the frustrations that the fans have got, because as much as he says he's owning all those signings in the summer, Alma, I think, might have been his. Phillips probably is, because of the lateness that he came in. The rest of them aren't his signings. He's just taken the flak and deflected that away from someone else, which he probably shouldn't have done. But I think what we're seeing is just a frustrated Rodgers. He doesn't want the sack. And we shouldn't sack him, not just now. We are still top of the table. As much as we're going through a rough patch, we are still top of the table. You've got to remember that. We want to go with some excuses. We've got so many players that are out injured just now as well, that when we get them back, Hati, Abada, Maeda, Carter Vickers, when we've got a full strength team in the park, you'd like to think it's going to be strong enough to take us through to the rest of the end of the domestic season. That shouldn't be the absolute goal for the club, though. It should be progress in Europe. We're not going to get that this season, but no, it's far too early to be saying Rodgers out or anything like that.
No, I agree with that. Listen, we're almost at that point where we're going to kick off tonight's game. It's the final Champions League game of the season. Hopefully we will get a result, something to shout about after. A few disappointing results in recent times. So thanks everybody for getting involved. Give us a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to join the comment section at halftime and full time tonight. And thank you to Kevin McCluskey for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.